welcome back to the deep dive. Listen, before we get into it today, and I'm going to warn you, this one might make some people a little uncomfortable. I have a quick request.
Just a small one.
If you value what we do here, if you like that we sift through all the noise to find the actual signal in a world that, frankly, seems to be losing its mind, just hit that like and subscribe button right now.
It really does help us keep the lights on. It keeps us independent.
And it gets this kind of information out to people who really need to hear it.
And today's information is definitely something that needs to be heard.
Yeah. We are diving headfirst into the ebook Communism Never Works by Conrad Riker, and I want to be really clear about something right off the bat. This is not your standard, dry high school history textbook. Riker. He frames this book as a weapon.
Literally.
He calls it an ultra-long, incisive, and honestly a fascinating takedown of the ideologies that are currently shaping, or, as some might argue, destroying the West.
It's a very specific kind of history.
Yeah.
It's written with a very specific purpose. Riker he's not just listing dates. He's making an argument that we're looking at a spiritual disease.
Right.
And he positions this book for a certain kind of person. He's writing for the modern man who feels like the whole system is rigged against him.
So if you've ever looked at the news or your HR department or the school system and just felt like these institutions have been captured by a narrative that denies reality, then this deep dive is for you.
Exactly. We're talking to that red-pilled perspective. Riker's whole thesis is that the official narrative we get about equality, it's a lie.
Yeah.
And he brings the receipts.
He really does.
Yeah.
So if what we're about to talk about resonates, do yourself a favor. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now and buy Communism Never Works.
No.
And you can follow the author at Conrad Riker on Substack. But first, let's unpack the mission of this thing.
Well, the core mission, as Riker lays it out, is to expose why. Why have these institutions been captured? He argues that communism, and its modern forms like wokeism, it's not just an economic theory that failed.
It's not just bad math.
No, not at all. He says it's a manifestation of what he calls satanic resentment. It's an ideology that, at its core, denies biology. It denies human nature itself.
That's the hook that really got me. This idea that human nature is the enemy of Marxism. Riker basically says, look, men are naturally competitive, they're hierarchical, they're driven by ownership.
We want to build things.
We want to build things, own them, pass them down. And when you try to suppress that biological drive, things get weird fast.
Weird is, that's putting it mildly. He uses this amazing example of the Israeli kibbutzim to illustrate it.
Okay, so for people who don't know, what's a kibbutz?
So these were voluntary socialist communities in Israel. This wasn't the Soviet Union. Nobody was being forced. It was like the best case scenario for this ideology. They started with total communal living.
Unlocked doors, everything is ours.
Exactly. Unlocked doors, shared meals. They even shared the raising of children. It was supposed to be a utopia.
No mine, only ours.
Right. But then reality hits. And Riker points out this one specific detail that's both hilarious and incredibly dark. They eventually had to install locks on all of the doors.
Socks! Why?
Because people kept stealing socks.
It's socks! Of all the things, socks.
Because socks are personal. They wear out, they get holes. In the big communal laundry, you'd never get the same pair back twice. So people started hoarding the good socks under their mattresses.
Wow.
And Riker's point is that even in a voluntary utopia, you cannot erase the instinct to say, this is mine. If you tell a man he can't own land, he'll hoard socks. It proves that the drive for private property is biological. It's not something you can just unlearn.
And when you scale that up from a village stealing socks to a whole national economy, you get what Riker calls the Soviet shoe factory.
Oh, this story's perfect. It just illustrates the incentive problem so well.
I honestly laughed out loud when I read this part.
So Riker tells this story about a Soviet factory with a quota to produce, say, 100,000 shoes. But the problem was, the central planners, they didn't specify pairs.
They just said shoes.
Just shoes. So the factory manager, who just wants to meet his quota and not, get a one-way trip to the gulag, he sets the machines to produce only left shoes.
Wait, so they made 100,000 left shoes?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it was faster. You don't have to retool the machines. He met the quota, he got his bonus, and the public got 100,000 shoes they couldn't use.
That's insane.
And Riker uses this to show that without profit, without private property, you just get absurdity. He gives another example of nails. If the quota was based on weight, the factory makes one giant 2-ton nail.
And if it was based on quantity?
Millions of tiny, fragile little nails that just bend when you hit them.
It sounds like a comedy sketch, but it actually destroyed an entire economy.
And it destroyed the human spirit. He tells the story of this one worker at the Gorky automobile plant. This guy was a total machine. He built 10 cars in a single day. An incredible feat.
And then what?
He stopped. Never did it again.
Why? Did he just burn out?
No. He realized that in that system, excellence is actually punished. He got no extra reward. Nothing. In fact, if he kept doing it, the planners would just raise the quota for everyone else, and his coworkers would probably beat him up in the parking lot.
So the system actively discourages being good at your job?
Precisely. Riker's argument is that without the profit motive, you don't get equality. You get, in his words, mass graves in silence. Or you get tractors without engines just sitting in fields rusting.
Speaking of mass graves, Riker does not pull any punches on the history, the carnage. He takes us on this tour from the killing fields to Venezuela, and he argues they're not bugs in the system.
They're features.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of younger listeners, people who maybe went through the public school system recently, they might not know the sheer scale of this.
He spends a lot of time on Cambodia. Pol Pot.
Yeah.
He argues that was the logical conclusion of the ideology. It wasn't some kind of anomaly. The Khmer Rouge wanted to get to year zero.
Erase everything.
Erase all inequality, which meant erasing all distinction. And the specifics he lists are they're horrifying. Riker notes that simply wearing glasses was a death sentence.
Because it meant you were an intellectual.
It meant you could read. If you could read, you might think. And if you could think, you were an enemy of equality. He describes people literally smashing their own glasses, pretending to be illiterate, just to avoid being murdered by their own government.
And the part about the children, that really turned my stomach.
It's the ultimate subversion of the family, isn't it? The state becomes the parent. They train children, we're talking 6, 7 years old, to spy on their parents, to even execute them.
Unbelievable.
That's the spiritual disease Riker's talking about. It's the destruction of the natural order. He cites a death toll of 2 million people, a quarter of the entire population, murdered for purity.
Then you jump to China's Great Leap Forward. Riker talks about the backyard furnaces, which I had never heard of this specific detail before.
It's just a prime example of ideology running over reality, like a steamroller. Mao decides China needs to produce more steel than Britain, but they don't have the industry.
Oh, what do?
He orders the peasants to build these little dirt furnaces in their backyards, but they don't have any iron ore. So the party orders them to melt down their essential tools.
Their own tools, like
Plows, wokes, door handles, anything metal. They destroy the very tools they needed to grow food, all to produce this useless slag. It was garbage metal, totally brittle. Riker connects this directly to the famine that followed, where 45 million people starved to death.
45 million.
It's a number so big you can't even process it.
And to bring it to the modern day, he looks at Venezuela. I mean, this was a wealthy oil nation. Riker describes it now as a place where they're eating zoo animals.
Eating dog food to survive.
Yeah.
But here's the key distinction Riker makes, and this is crucial for the listener's, red pill perspective. He says socialism always creates two classes.
You have the starving masses.
And then you have the nomenclatura.
Let's unpack that term for a second. What does nomenclatura actually mean?
It literally means the list of names. It's the elite members of the Communist Party who got special privileges. While the people starved, the nomenclatura had special stores, special hospitals.
Imported luxury goods. Riker mentions Celia Flores, Maduro's wife in Venezuela.
Right. 90% of the country is in abject poverty, and she's walking around with $70,000 handbags.
So this is Riker's point. It's not about helping the poor.
No. It's about a transfer of power and wealth to a new elite. They tear down the old aristocracy just so they can install themselves, feasting on caviar while everyone else stands in a bread line.
This is where the book pivots, and I think this is where it gets really, really relevant for our listeners today. Riker goes from these economic failures to what he calls cultural Marxism, the woke Babylon.
He argues that the economic war might have gone quiet, but the cultural war is raging, and it's aimed specifically at men.
He calls it the feminization of society. Riker's argument is that the revolutionaries, they realized the working class in the West wasn't going to revolt.
Why would they? Capitalism actually made them comfortable.
Exactly. So they changed tactics. They decided to attack the foundations of the West itself, the family and the male spirit.
And he focuses heavily on the war on boys in schools. The stats he pulls out they're alarming. He claims 68% of boys are failing literacy tests.
And that schools are essentially drugging boys with ADHD medication for having normal male energy.
He sees the modern classroom as just hostile territory for male biology. Think about it. Boys are high energy, they're competitive, they're physical.
And the modern school demands they sit still for 7 hours and talk about their feelings.
Yes. Riker argues that traits like competitiveness, risk-taking, the very things that built civilization, are now treated like a pathology, something to be medicated away.
He tells this one specific story. A Texas high school that replaced tackle football with collaborative dance therapy.
And male enrollment dropped by 40%.
Well, obviously.
But that's Riker's point. Boys don't want to hold hands in a circle. They want to compete. They want to test themselves. Riker calls this the participation trophy culture. He tells a story about a science fair where one boy builds a working robot.
And another kid draws a smiley face.
And they get the same praise.
Because they don't want to hurt the smiley face kid's feelings.
Exactly. But Riker says this is designed to punish excellence. If you reward mediocrity the same as you reward greatness, you destroy the incentive to be great. You create a generation of men who don't even bother trying.
And Riker connects this directly to feminism. He has it's a very controversial definition for it.
He calls modern feminism Marxism with a uterus.
It's a provocative choice.
It's meant to be a weapon, like he says. His argument is that modern feminism isn't about equality anymore. It's about resource extraction and domination. He draws a direct parallel. Instead of bourgeoisie versus proletariat, it's men versus women. The patriarchy replaces capitalism as the great evil. And he points to the legal system as proof, specifically divorce courts. He argues the whole believe women doctrine is a tool to strip men of their wealth and their children. He tells the story of Robert Hughes.
A tragic case. According to Riker, Hughes was basically erased from his children's lives by false accusations. The argument is that the state wants to break up families because a broken family relies more on the state.
You remove the father.
And the state becomes the provider and the protector. It destroys that independent kingdom of the father.
Riker calls this whole phenomenon gynocentrism, the idea that society now prioritizes female feelings and safety over, truth and male dignity.
He describes it as a total shift. We used to honor the producer and the protector, the classic male roles. Now we honor the victim.
So having power or being strong actually makes you a suspect.
And claiming victimhood gives you status. It gives you social capital.
So how did we get here? How did we go from land of the free to collaborative dance therapy? Riker traces it all back to the Frankfurt School.
He calls them the degenerate demons. Adorno, Horkheimer, Marcuse. These were Marxist academics who fled Germany, came to America, and realized they couldn't win an economic fight.
So they decided to capture the culture instead.
The institutions,
Yeah.
universities, media, Hollywood. Their goal, he says, was to destroy the nuclear family and the father figure.
Riker focuses on Herbert Marcuse's idea of, repressive tolerance.
Yeah, and this one is a bit of a head-scratcher at first. Marcuse argued that to create a truly tolerant society, you have to be intolerant of the right.
So true tolerance means silencing people you disagree with.
If they're on the right, yes. Marcuse's idea was that right-wing ideas are inherently dangerous, so liberating society meant suppressing them while actively promoting leftist ideas.
And that's the double standard we see today. You can wave a communist flag on a college campus, but if you wear a MAGA hat, you could get expelled.
You see it everywhere. Riker compares the 1619 Project to actual history. He points to the collapse of civic literacy. Something like 3 out of 4 young adults can't name the 3 branches of government.
But they can probably give you a lecture on intersectionality.
And that, according to Riker, is the victory of the Frankfurt School. They successfully replaced the trivium logic, grammar, rhetoric, the tools of thinking, with ideology and grievance. They're not teaching kids how to think.
They're teaching them what to think.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've painted a pretty bleak picture. Institutions captured, boys drugged, history erased, the legal system weaponized. But Riker doesn't just leave you there. He offers a solution, an antidote.
And it is a very red pill solution. He says the answer isn't voting harder, it's not complaining on Twitter, it is exit and building.
He talks about the black market spirit. I love that story of the Polish steelworker.
Oh yeah, the man who hid radios and tractor parts. The state controlled all the information, so the only way to get the truth was to smuggle it. Riker uses that to say that when the system lies, the truth goes underground.
And men need to become that underground resistance.
But not in a violent way, it's more personal. His advice is specific. Own private property, master your body, discipline your mind, and absolutely fundamentally reject the cult of victimhood.
Exit and build.
That's it.
Yeah.
Riker argues that all this stuff, communism, wokeism, it relies on envy. It relies on you wanting what someone else has without doing the work. The antidote to envy is competence.
If you're strong and self-reliant.
You become the immune system of the culture. You become ungovernable.
He has this great line, something like, "You do not need to burn down the world. You need to build a better one, starting with yourself."
That is the core message. It's a call to individual responsibility. He's saying the system is designed to make you weak, dependent, and angry. The most revolutionary thing you can do is be strong, independent, and capable.
Build a strong family, a strong community, and the state becomes irrelevant.
Powerful stuff. And look, we have only just scratched the surface of what's in this book. Riker goes so much deeper.
Oh, yeah. Into the psychology of it, he names the names, he gives a lot more tactical advice on protecting your assets and your mind.
It really is a comprehensive takedown. He frames it as a weapon for men who refuse to apologize for their nature. He says communism is a death cult, and feminism, in his view, is a tool of control.
So if any of this resonated with you, if you've been nodding along thinking, finally someone just said it, you need to read the full text. This deep dive was just the appetizer.
You need the main course. Absolutely. The details, the history, the arguments. You need to arm yourself with the whole thing. You can't fight this battle if you don't understand the enemy's playbook.
So here is your direct instruction. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Playbooks right now. Search for Communism Never Works by Conrad Riker. Buy it, read it, highlight it.
And if you want to keep up with his ongoing stuff, follow him at Conrad Riker on Substack.
The information is out there. It's up to you to access it.
It really is.
That's it for this deep dive. Remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. It helps us keep bringing you these insights. And as Riker might say, seek truth over comfort. We'll see you next time.